Oh, this is new. For the first time on 58 Keys. I don't know why I'm so excited, but yeah, there you go. Take it where you can get it. This is a two-part edition. Never done this. Well, not intentionally done this before. And if you're watching this as it first goes out, you may have a bit of a wait for part two. Although, I suppose, other way around, if you're watching much later, well, you have no wait at all. The second half is linked, will be linked in the description. But this is about shortcuts. Specifically today, now in this, shortcuts before Apple Intelligence. And then once iOS 26, iPadOS 26 and macOS Tahoe are officially out in mid-September or maybe October, part two is about shortcuts after Apple Intelligence. I tell you, yes, so much said against AI and Apple Intelligence, and I'm a writer, of course. You know, I mean, I'm insulted at the idea that I'd use AI to write my work or rewrite my work. But Apple Intelligence inside shortcuts is astoundingly good. I've replaced paid apps with it, but then shortcuts without Apple Intelligence, well, they're not exactly rubbish either. So, for part one, here's how, for you as a writer, it's worth looking into shortcuts, as it was for me as a writer. Unless you would know all of this, of course, in which case I got nothing for you. But I would really enjoy entirely stealing any shortcut ideas that you're willing to tell me about in the comments. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers. Writers like you and me who use and you write on Macs and iPhones and iPads, all of which include this thing called shortcuts. If you've not come across them at all before, let me say that a shortcut is just a way, one of many ways, of getting your iPhone, your iPad, or your Mac to do things for you automatically. Now, it can be as simple as getting them to open a particular document, you know, your novel, because you never quite remember where it is you saved it, something like that. Or it can be extraordinarily complex. I mean, not just doing one little thing, open a file, but many things. It could be asking you, which of these things do you want? It just goes, you need to see how it will build up from the very small basics. But I think you also need to see why it's worth doing at all. Or maybe I'm projecting there. I find that I never learn something by setting out to learn it. I need a specific need, and then I figure out what to do, which is what I did for each of the, well, let's call it 5 or so examples that I want to show you. I think it's 5. 5 examples out of the more than 600. Every blob there is a shortcut that I've ended up making. And 5 examples out of the 20 odd that I actually use, well, regularly anyway. The thing with each of them is that they are always faster than doing something yourself, and also they are always right. A shortcut will never open the wrong document or the wrong draft or something the way I might or you might. As long as you've set it up right at the start, it'll never change. Okay, all right. If you were already a die-hard shortcut user, well, I think you did at least there just raise an eyebrow and maybe glance at the ceiling, because shortcuts are brilliant, no question, but they can be a bit flaky. Okay? For what I'm going to talk to you about today, for our use today, though, it's fine. Starting with this. This is the Today view on my iPhone, and there, the 4 multicoloured blobs, they are each shortcuts that I use often. I read a script every day, for instance, and when I'm done, I can tap that Open Scripts Read shortcut button, and the spreadsheet where, am I really telling you this, where I write down what I've read is opened for me. So I can look back later to see what I read where and get it again. Yeah, I don't think you're thrilled. No coffee is being spluttered, but you'll think I could open numbers if I'm going to do this at all. I could have a spreadsheet. I could look through that. I could do all of this. But yeah, or I could open the Files app, do exactly the same. There's just all these options. But I don't need any of these options because tap, I'm in. Here's what that shortcut actually does and what it actually looks like. That whole thing you're seeing there is called an action. It's the open file action. You can find this and all the others in a list on the side, on the iPad or on the Mac, or by swiping up from the bottom on the iPhone version of shortcuts. And you can search for actions when you know what you want. The list you see there, yours is going to look different to mine because everybody's list includes all sorts of these actions that, Apple provides, sure, but also all sorts that third-party developers do. So what actions you see listed depend on what apps you happen to have. I'm not completely a fan of this, really, because it's quite easy to end up with so many actions from different apps that have the same name. Fortunately, you can kind of filter the results. So, for example, if I know I want to do something in a particular app, so not just open a spreadsheet in Numbers, but do a particular thing in Numbers with that sheet, well, then the way I start is I begin typing out the name of the app. Numbers, the app, not an action. Matching apps appear at the top of the list, and then when you select the one you want, you get matching actions only from that app. But then thereafter, whatever, it's always the same. Find an action and basically fill out a form on it. Here, for example, I've tapped on the what was grayed out word file and followed the prompts to pick the document that I want. And then that could be that. That could be it. Open this document in its usual app, the default app. Why not? You can actually specify which app, and I don't know why I do this, but I always do. So in my case, it becomes open this document in Numbers. Now that's it. Except you can see I was able to add another open file action here. There's no limit to how often you use any action in any shortcut. Just keep adding them. But for the iPhone, there is no benefit to opening multiple documents. I mean, on the Mac, there is. So on the Mac, if your morning consists of Mail and Safari or Chrome and 5 documents in Pages and 3 in Excel, or if you also have to log into a certain work website, well, you can make one shortcut that will have in every app for you and plonk you down in front of the work website, ready for you to get on and enter your login details. I do that, actually. Each of the documents, though, could also be opened for you with an open file action, each app by an open app action. So these are different actions, but you can see it's really similar to the open file one, isn't it? Opening a specific website. Well, it's another similar action, except this is one where you do have to learn a little bit more about what to look for. If you searched in shortcuts for web or website or site or something, it doesn't get you what you need. That one is common, and you're going to, well, actually all searches are common. You're going to spend time searching and scrolling and tapping again. On the I button, the I for information button next to each action, is this the one I want? What does that do? Okay, but in this case, actually, the action that we're looking at is open URLs. And as simple as it sounds, as much like all the others, open file, open app, all of that, as you expect to be, it is exactly that straightforward and simple, except it does introduce a really key thing that you're going to need to get used to. I just added open URLs, but the action might already be filled in for me. I've been trying to make this happen on demand to show you, but for example, just a little while before we started talking, I couldn't remember whether it was open URLs or open websites. So I checked and I found the right one, and it clicked. It appeared with something in that URL field. It just wasn't a website URL. It was actually an app. When this kind of thing happens, it is always shortcuts trying to help you out. But you so often have to say, now behave yourself. Right click on whatever's in that field, whatever's been added without your permission, if you like. Find clear variable, then click in the field and type or paste what you want. In this case, a website URL. For such a simple thing, right? I mean, open a document. I took a time to tell you, didn't I? I mean, I must say now, a dozen times longer to show you than for your eye to actually set up the shortcut to do. But now you know actions. Well, actually, take another quick one. You're a writer, so opening a document, opening a word processor, fine. I think you see that benefit. You get why that might be useful for you. I offer, though, that it can, really specifically, it can also be useful having your Apple Watch, if you have one that is, automatically change its watch face for you. Follow. New shortcut, new action, set watch face. I have a workday watch face, and at 7 p.m. each weeknight, when I think I've finished, and maybe I have, it changes to an evening face. I have a weekend face that kicks in on Fridays, sometimes the only time I know there's a weekend. Kicks in Friday 7 p.m, stays the same until Monday at 6 a.m, except I also, every night, have my watch automatically change its face to like a really large display and a kind of dull red, so that I can readily see it in the middle of the night and don't flood the bedroom with light. I presume, actually there must be a way that you write one shortcut that does all of this, but instead I have one per change, and that's because it turns out to be easier to tell the iPhone to automatically pick this one now, please, or that one then, please. To make the face change, or actually do anything automatically, you open the Shortcuts app, right? You tap on Automation at the bottom of the list of those list of shortcuts. Yours might be longer or shorter than mine. And then I scroll to the one that I've done before. Automation, run immediately as well. That's important. That means when this particular shortcut is triggered, it will just get on it, it will run. If instead it was set to the default, which is run after confirmation, then every single night when my watch wanted to, it would just ask me, do you want to change faces? Well, yes, I do. Thank you, that's why I went through all of this thing, so you wouldn't have to, yeah. Next, when is key in automation. In this case, I've actually set a specific time of day. And then there's the do section, the last one. If you go into here, well, you'll recognize this. It's a shortcut with an action. It's just kind of tucked away a little bit in this automation section. Note that it used to be, right, that automation was only possible at all on the iPhone. With the forthcoming iPadOS 26 and macOS Tahoe, the iPad and the Mac are getting this option too. Although you can still only choose Apple Watch faces on the iPhone, so it's not complete. How about this? Right. When you open a certain app to get some writing done and really concentrate on it, you could have your iPhone, your iPad or your Mac, and all of this, all three devices, turn on Do Not Disturb. I use this one actually when I'm recording 58 keys and I'm running a kind of teleprompter app with the script I've written. Since I shoot using my own iPhone, there have been many times when I've been interrupted by, sales and spam calls during a long recording session, and, at best, the video stops and I may have lost what I filmed, or at worst, the filming continues and I have these outtakes of me swearing my head off at whoever today is pretending to be Microsoft and concerned about my PC. Yeah, you know the ones. Make a new shortcut, right? And choose the action, set focus. This is one where I've seen, there can be two or more. You quickly find the one that has to, not the one to do with focus on the cameras, but focus as in focus mode. Apple's anti-distraction tool, focus mode. Yeah, by the way, if you ever find out you've picked the wrong one, I don't want the camera thing, and then you tap the X to delete the action from the list, and then you just try again. Now, select that action, tap on it. Tap in the middle bit where you get this list of your focus modes, and then tap to pick one. Next, tap on where it probably says off and change it to say on. We want to turn a focus mode on, and let's say we want it to stay on until we say so, until we stop it. Turn Do Not Disturb on until turned off. As before, what's key is when. Tap the plus sign to start making this one, and you see a long list of personal automation options, such as time of day, the thing I did with my watch face. But if you scroll way down, there's app. Choose that, and then choose an app. Decide whether you want something to happen when you open or when you close that app, and then tap next. And now pick a shortcut to run. Years and years ago, now maybe 5 years ago, I did this on my iPhone. Shortcuts, automation, new automation from tapping the plus sign, and then I chose it always a run immediately. But for this one, actually, I also let it have notify when run. I don't know why, but it's just, I find it very handy. It's reassuring to see a sign saying Do Not Disturb is on or off. Okay. But then in my case, back to automation, the plus sign, app, chose the app, teleprompter, select open, tap next, choose this new shortcut. Search field to help you find your way through your shortcuts. And this means when I launch the teleprompter app, this shortcut automatically opens. And then I do it all again, but this time with a turn Do Not Disturb off. And you have it set to automatically run when a certain app like my teleprompter one is closed instead. So now I open the teleprompter app, I'm in Do Not Disturb. I close the teleprompter app, or actually if it crashes either, I'm out of Do Not Disturb for the time that I need it. In my specific example here, to film 58 keys, but also if open on Pages, open on Scrivener. When I am writing something and I need to concentrate, do not disturb on, do not disturb off, without me having to think, where is it to turn it on, or more significantly, to remember to turn it off later. So run the list with me, please. We've had manually running a shortcut. I mean, you finding one of the blobs, tapping a button to run it. Then there's running automatically at a certain time of day, like with the watch face. And then there's running automatically when you open or you close a certain app. In each of these cases, right, we've had just one thing happen, but there's nothing to stop you making the shortcut do countless things. And you can equally have one do countless things. For instance, when you arrive home, I'll just tell you this one because again, it's actions like you've seen before. You're dragging and out and doing this stuff. It's why you would do this. It's more significant this time. You've seen how it was done broadly. When I or my wife get home and it's after dark, our porch light comes on automatic, and actually so does our downstairs hallway light. That comes on too. This is automation, yeah, by time of day, but it isn't a specific 10 past 8 kind of thing. It's automation when someone comes home and it's after sunset. Your iPhone knows when sunset is where you are, so it knows when it's dark, so it knows to run the automation. Otherwise, it's just, it's still actions and what you want to happen when you want to happen it. There's always more detail on top of these things. There's always more options, there's always more actions and slight variations of them. But actually one more now, just before I show you. Again, I'll show you, so I'm not going to belabor choosing action after action. Before I show you a set of shortcuts that I use every week, let me also say that you can ask for a shortcut to run by voice, and it will, without complications like automating when someone's home after dark on a Tuesday, or finding the right button press. Yeah, all you do is make a shortcut, give it a name that you'll remember, and then when you want to run it, ask. Iris, or a very similar name, light the fuse. Yeah, no, I should explain that one. Here, let me show you. This is my light the fuse shortcut. It's a single action that sends the same text message to the same person whenever this is run. Light the fuse and what you see there rolling to you, yeah, they're both Mission Impossible references. Look, I won't judge you if you don't judge me. Okay? And what happens is that if I'm away but I'm about to come home, I will ask my iPhone or my Apple Watch, or sometimes my iPad, depending on what I'm doing, to light the fuse. It tells me a moment later that this is done, and I know that my wife Angela has had a text saying, I'm on the way home. It feels like I'm like warning her. I wonder what she'd... Anyway, okay. I need a conversation about that. So, focus, William. The thing is just that you ask Iris, or let's call her a sister, you just say the name of the shortcut, whatever it is, and it runs. Amazingly useful. Right then, excuse the mess. This is a set of shortcuts, and there are some duplicates because I'm in the middle of trying new things with them. You get it to work, then you keep the one that works, and you make some changes on the copy. Yeah. This is all to do, though, with the Apple Insider podcast, which, as it happens, I produce, and more significantly for what we're talking about, I also edit afterwards. At the end of the recording, what I want is a shot list that tells me where to place chapter markers, and also when to edit out any, mistakes or something else. As we start recording it, I tap this one, Start AI Podcast Log. And then when we actually start speaking, I tap Podcast Intro Start. Throughout the recording, when there's a new chapter or a possible new chapter, I tap Podcast Chapter. And if there's a fluff, something, whatever it is, a cough, something that needs an edit, here's the Start Log one shortcut. It's longer than you've seen so far, but you can also say it is, just as ever, a list of several actions.
What shortcut do you want to run?
Nothing, thank you.
Sorry.
What shortcut do you want to run?
Nothing, cancel. So what was I saying there? Right, anyway, this is the shortcut for the starting the log one. It's longer than you've seen so far, but you can also see It's just the same, isn't it? It's a list of several actions in a row, and I spent ages thinking about the sequence, whatever. Not to list them all, but these actions up at the top there, they include one for getting the current date and time. That's all they do. They include text boxes that will later be put into my shot list, like where it will say needs edit. And most important of all, it contains a variable. Whenever I run this, what it does is it gets the current date and then it writes out the text, the line, Apple Insider podcast started at, and then types in that date and time, whatever it is, the current date and time. All I say is write that text, please, followed by the variable, whose name I've made up, and Shortcuts gets the date, pops it into that variable, and then writes out that variable when it gets to it in the text. Actually, in this case, it pops the text out, this is too much detail, but just so you know, into a new document in the Drafts app, which is where I write my short list. And then, just again quickly, here's the new chapter one. It gets the date and time that the first shortcut saved, the one saying that recording has begun. It gets the now current time, the time I pressed the button. It works out the difference. It works out the difference between the two in minutes and seconds, and then it writes that result into that same Drafts document for me. By the end of the recording, I might have 20 such timestamps, if you want to call them that, and next to them it will say new chapter or needs edit or cough or whatever it is. You can see, I think you can see why that's all useful for me, because like I'm presenting away, I'm a co-presenter as well as producing, so I can't readily type a lot into Drafts during the show. Certainly not the time to the second for when I'm editing later, but Shortcuts can do it for me. And now, as it happens, that podcast it's kind of part of my writing business. And well, unless you also do one in exactly the same way I do, this particular shortcut, well, if it was any use, I'd give it to you, but it isn't. What I would suggest, though, is rather than giving it to you, rather than showing you in more detail, what's important is what I was trying to do. This is why it's worth looking into these things. And what you get from that, I hope, is that you can make multi-step shortcuts and they save time. Plus, they are always right. They always get the second of the minute dead on. Once I'd worked out all of this at the start, that shortcut has never put the wrong time in. It did take me hours to work this out, and actually more than a year now after I first thought of it, I'm still improving it. You see the different versions, I'm still trying out different things, and yet every time now that we record that podcast, my iPad is in my hand and I tap these buttons knowing that they will do what I need for later on. So actions, right? What they do, when they do it, all of that. None of it will be any different in part 2 of this 2-part Shortcuts for Writers edition of 58 Keys, but what will be different is that Apple has added a new set of actions to Shortcuts, actions that involve Apple Intelligence. When iOS 26, iPadOS 26 and macOS Tahoe are out, you will get part 2 of this, and you will see, I think, incredibly simple shortcuts that, for instance, transcribe interviews for me, that compare two PDF documents for differences, that let me just gas away randomly and then sorts out my thinking into like a coherent plan of something, all because actually of one single Apple Intelligence action out of a few that's coming to Shortcuts soon. Until that's out, I think I probably do need to warn you, a bit late now, William, actually now think of it, you can get addicted to shortcuts. And I've definitely got to warn you that the same, this is a serious thing, the same shortcut will run on the iPhone, the iPad and the Mac. Write it on any of them, it'll run on all of them, but it will also sometimes just fall over because not all of those devices have all of the possible shortcuts, which is actually, there's a couple that it's so frustrating about, but I can't. Overall, shortcuts are a quite incredible boon to me and definitely worth the effort. Plus, they can be found very satisfying when they work. All right, actually, sorry. One more example. Let's see if this would work for you. I said there are these 58 keys about shortcuts. Right, well, the moment I thought of doing it as 2, I was certain that I would, but I couldn't know when to do them. Part 2 has to come out after the official launch of all the OS 26s, so I couldn't schedule, I could put a date for it, I could guess, but I couldn't do it. And I could write it, I'm on the beta test, I'm using this stuff. I could do all sorts of things. I could take screen recordings, I could be really ready, I'm ready for this. But when I decide I'll definitely do a 58 keys in a certain topic, I run a shortcut. What it does is it grabs the next production number, it asks me what the episode is about, it creates a folder for that episode, and actually in that folder it creates 4 or 5 subfolders for the various bits and pieces I happen to need in filming, and it also pops in a copy of my basic template script, all of which is correctly labelled with the number of the episode so I can find them later. This bit's new though, I just added this. Actually, I just added this thinking about you. I was thinking about the shortcuts episode, right? But also this thing about, I don't know when they're going to be. I don't know what the number is, the date. If I don't immediately know when I'm going to do it, now that same shortcut of mine, it does all the folder stuff for me, reserves an episode number and all of that, but it also enters the details into my scheduling spreadsheet. All of that last bit, that spreadsheet through this action, add episode title to the bottom of table 1 in future in the 58 keys schedule document. It required me dragging one single action into the existing shortcut and then filling it out with those details. It took less than a minute from when I thought of it to when I'd done it. Shortcuts are useful. Shortcuts can keep growing. And once you have one shortcut to do one thing, you can so easily add to it or make a slightly different copy, do something slightly different, open a different document, open a different app. Look, that's it for this first of 2 Shortcuts for Writers edition, the 58 keys. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to actually as well to the 58 keys Patreon members who asked for it. Do join them. It'd be so much fun to have you with us there in supporting 58 keys on a Patreon thing. It's a really fun group of writers now. I love getting to talk with them. But more urgently, more immediately, take care of yourself, write more, not just shortcuts, and I'll see you soon.